If you're over 60, listen closely because what I'm about to tell you could explain things you've been feeling for years, things most people assume are just aging, but they're not. In fact, they might be signs of something surprisingly simple and surprisingly fixable. Today, I'm going to walk you through 11 strange symptoms that people over 60 often ignore, but doctors say are closely linked to vitamin D deficiency. And trust me, a few of these will shock you. So let's start with something subtle, that unexplained tiredness that just doesn't match your lifestyle. You sleep, you rest, you take it slow, yet your energy feels drained. That deep bone-level fatigue is one of the most overlooked signs. Now, if you've been blaming age for those constant muscle aches or that stiffness when you wake up, don't. Vitamin D plays a huge role in muscle function. Without it, your muscles simply can't fire the way they're supposed to, which leads to weakness, wobbliness, and that I feel older than I am sensation. Another strange one, feeling sad or low for no apparent reason. Most people never connect mood with vitamin D, but low levels can disrupt the brain chemicals that keep you emotionally balanced. If your mood has been unusually heavy, this might be one of the missing pieces. And here's something many people don't expect at all: frequent colds or infection. Vitamin D is like your immune system's charger. Without it, your defenses run low, and you get sick more often than you should. Have you noticed your bones hurting? Not just joints, but the bones themselves. That dull, deep ache, especially in your lower back, can be connected to vitamin D deficiency because your body struggles to absorb calcium without it. And speaking of bones, fractures that happen more easily, sometimes from small falls or bumps, can also be tied to chronically low levels. This next one surprises most people: slow healing. If your cuts, scratches, or bruises seem to linger forever, that's your body signaling that something is missing. Another unusual symptom is hair thinning or shedding more than usual. Many people don't know vitamin D helps regulate the growth cycle of hair follicles, and when the levels drop, your hair suffers. Then there's dizziness, particularly that off-balance feeling when you stand up or turn too quickly. It's linked to muscle weakness and nerve function, both of which vitamin D influences. Here's a sign almost nobody talks about: unexpected weight gain. No, vitamin D doesn't magically burn fat, but low levels interfere with hormone balance and metabolism, making it harder for your body to regulate weight. If you've been doing all the right things and still gaining or staying stuck, this may be a fact. And finally, one more you absolutely shouldn't ignore: nighttime pain or cramps. If your legs or feet tense up at night or feel unbearably tight, low vitamin D might be behind it. Now, here's why all of this matters. These symptoms are often dismissed as normal aging, but they are not inevitable. They're warning signs. And the good news, vitamin D deficiency is one of the easiest problems to fix once you identify it. But ignoring it can lead to bone loss, cognitive decline, weakened immunity, and long-term health complications. So if even 2 or 3 of these signs sound familiar, don't brush them aside. Get your levels checked, take action, and give your body what it's been asking for. Before you go, stay with me for the next videos where I'll show you exactly how to naturally boost your vitamin D, how much you really need after age 60, and what mistakes most people make with supplements. You deserve to age with strength, clarity, and confidence, and it all starts with knowledge. Stay healthy, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one. Many people over the age of 60 live with symptoms that quietly creep into their daily life, things they assume are simply the natural consequences of getting older. But what they don't realize is that many of these issues may not be aging at all. They might actually be signals from the body pointing to a vitamin D deficiency. It's such a common issue because as we age, the skin becomes less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight, and many people spend less time outdoors compared to earlier years. Combine that with dietary gaps, chronic conditions, or certain medications, and the body begins to run on low reserves without anyone realizing it. The tricky part is that vitamin D deficiency doesn't always show up with loud or dramatic symptoms. Instead, it shows up quietly in the form of subtle changes that people chalk up to getting old, like fatigue that seems to hit harder than expected, or aches that weren't there before. These symptoms blend so easily into the common narrative of aging that it becomes difficult to identify them as something preventable or treatable. Think about the times you felt unusually tired even though you haven't done anything strenuous, or the mornings when you wake up already feeling drained, as if your body didn't recharge overnight. Many older adults accept this as normal, but chronic fatigue is one of the earliest and most widespread signs of vitamin D deficiency. The body relies on vitamin D for energy production and muscle function, and when levels drop, even simple tasks start to feel like heavy work. Another overlooked sign is that feeling of weakness in the legs or arms, especially when getting up from a chair or climbing stairs. People think they're just losing strength with age, but vitamin D plays a major role in keeping muscles strong and responsive. Without enough of it, muscle fibers weaken, coordination drops, and movements become less stable. Then there are the more puzzling symptoms like mood changes. Many older adults experience a subtle sadness, irritability, or emotional heaviness that they can't fully explain. They may not feel depressed in the traditional sense, but they notice their mood isn't as bright or stable as it used to be. This isn't just emotional, it's biological. Vitamin D influences brain chemicals, such as serotonin, which plays a big role in emotional balance. When vitamin D levels dip, emotional well-being can dip with it. But again, most people assume this is simply part of growing older. Another common misunderstanding happens with physical aches. Joint stiffness, bone discomfort, and general body soreness are often dismissed as arthritis or the unavoidable reality of aging. But vitamin D deficiency affects calcium absorption, bone strength, and overall skeletal health. When vitamin D is low, the bones don't get the support they need, and pain develops quietly over time. It doesn't come all at once, which is why people don't question it. They just adapt to it. And finally, the immune system weakens without vitamin D, making older adults more susceptible to frequent colds or infections. Yet most people never stop to wonder why they get sick more easily than before. The important thing to understand is that these symptoms are not random and not always signs of aging. They are often the body's subtle way of saying it needs help, and vitamin D deficiency is one of the most common reasons behind these changes. Fatigue, muscle weakness, bone pain, fractures, slow healing, and nighttime cramps are some of the most common physical problems people notice as they get older, but very few realize how closely they are connected to low vitamin D. Fatigue is usually the first sign, and it can feel confusing because it doesn't always match your daily activity level. You might have slept well, eaten well, and taken it easy, yet your energy feels strangely low. This type of tiredness comes from deep inside the muscles and bones because vitamin D is essential for helping the body convert food into usable energy and supporting muscle performance. When levels are low, the body simply cannot operate at full power, no matter how much rest you get. Muscle weakness is another subtle but powerful sign. It often shows up when you try to stand up from a chair, climb stairs, or hold something heavier than usual. People describe it as feeling wobbly or unstable, almost as if their legs don't belong to them. This happens because vitamin D helps regulate the contraction and strength of muscle fibers. Without enough of it, the muscles lose some of their responsiveness, making movements feel harder and less controlled. Many older adults assume this weakness is unavoidable with age, but in many cases, improving vitamin D levels can noticeably restore strength and mobility. Bone pain is also a major consequence of deficiency because vitamin D plays a central role in helping the body absorb calcium. When the body can't absorb calcium properly, the bones begin to weaken from the inside, creating a deep, dull ache that feels different from joint pain. This ache often appears in the hips, lower back, or ribs, and can linger night after night. Over time, weak bones also become more fragile, which increases the chances of fractures from minor falls or even from simple movements that should not normally cause injury. Older adults are often told that fragile bones are just part of aging, but vitamin D deficiency is one of the biggest contributors to thinning bones and preventable fractures. Slow wound healing is another strange but important symptom. Cuts, bruises, and scratches that linger for longer than they should are a sign that the body's repair systems are slowed down. Vitamin D supports immune function, inflammation control, and tissue regeneration. When levels are low, the skin and tissues take much longer to repair themselves, which can increase the risk of infections or complications. Nighttime leg cramps also catch many people by surprise, especially when the cramps become frequent or severe enough to interrupt sleep. These cramps can feel sharp, sudden, and intense, and they often point to imbalances in minerals like calcium and magnesium, both of which depend on vitamin D for proper regulation. When vitamin D is low, the muscles become more prone to misfiring, tightening, and painful spasms, especially at night when the body is resting. All of these symptoms, fatigue, weakness, bone discomfort, fractures, slow healing, and cramps, are physical messages that something deeper is going on. They are not signs of aging alone. They are signs the body is struggling without enough vitamin D, and once levels are restored, many people experience improvements they didn't even think were possible. Low vitamin D doesn't just affect the body, it has a surprisingly powerful impact on emotional and mental well-being, which is why many people over 60 experience mood changes, sadness, dizziness, and more frequent infections without ever realizing what's causing them. The mind and immune system are deeply connected to vitamin D levels, and when those levels drop, the changes can feel confusing, subtle, and easy to blame on stress, age, or daily life. One of the most overlooked symptoms is a shift in mood that seems to come out of nowhere. You might notice you don't feel as upbeat as you used to, or that your emotional resilience isn't the same. Little things bother you more. You feel heavier, slower, or more withdrawn. This isn't simply psychological. Vitamin D helps regulate neurotransmitters neurotransmitters like serotonin, the feel-good chemical that supports emotional balance. When vitamin D drops, serotonin can drop with it, and the mind reacts in ways that feel strangely out of character. Another emotional symptom is irritability. People often find themselves snapping more easily or feeling frustrated over small things they would normally brush off. Again, the brain is signaling a biological imbalance, not a personality change. Many older adults ignore this shift because they assume it's normal or just part of having more responsibilities or stress, but the real cause may be happening deeper inside the body. Vitamin D plays a crucial role in the brain's ability to regulate mood, and deficiency can create emotional turbulence that is often mistaken for depression, anxiety, or simply getting older. Dizziness is another surprising sign, and it often appears when standing up too quickly or moving suddenly. This off-balance feeling can be unsettling, especially because it seems to have no clear cause. Vitamin D influences muscle strength and nerve communication, and when levels are low, the body struggles to maintain stability and coordination. The result is that lightheaded feeling that makes you pause for a moment, hold on to something, or move more carefully than before. People over 60 often attribute this to blood pressure or inner ear issues, but low vitamin D can contribute to this sensation far more than most people realize. Frequent infections are another major red flag. If you find yourself catching colds more often, recovering slowly, or dealing with recurring respiratory issues, your immune system may be running without enough fuel. Vitamin D acts almost like an immune switch. It helps activate the cells that fight off viruses and bacteria. When levels drop, your defenses weaken and you become more susceptible to illnesses that your body once handled with ease. This is especially important for older adults because the immune system naturally becomes less efficient with age, making vitamin D even more crucial for staying healthy. Some people even notice increased allergies or heightened inflammation. Without enough vitamin D, the immune system becomes more reactive and less regulated, which can lead to flare-ups, sensitivities, or chronic discomfort that never used to be there. This constant low-grade inflammation can also affect sleep, energy levels, and overall mood, creating a cycle where the body struggles to restore balance. All of these emotional and mental symptoms, low mood, irritability, dizziness, weakened immunity, can be incredibly frustrating because they often appear gradually and without a clear explanation. But once vitamin D levels are restored, many people report feeling more stable, more energetic, more positive, and far less vulnerable to seasonal or recurring illnesses. These changes aren't imagined, they're physiological. The body is simply trying to function without one of the nutrients it relies on for brain health and immune strength. Hair thinning and unexplained weight gain are two symptoms people rarely connect to vitamin D, but for many adults over 60, they are some of the clearest signs that something deeper is out of balance. Hair loss is one of those issues that slowly creeps. You notice more hair on the pillow, more strands in the shower, or a gradual thinning that makes the scalp more visible. People often blame aging, stress, or genetics, and while those factors do play a role, vitamin D deficiency can silently accelerate hair shedding. Vitamin D helps regulate the growth cycle of hair follicles. Each follicle has phases: growing, resting, and shedding. When vitamin D levels drop, that cycle becomes disrupted. The follicles may stay in the resting phase for too long, new hairs may grow thinner, and more strands may fall out prematurely. This leads to hair that looks weaker, less dense, or more fragile, especially around the crown or hairline. What makes this symptom confusing is that it doesn't happen suddenly. It shows up gradually, almost unnoticeably, until one day the difference becomes clear. Another issue closely tied to vitamin D deficiency is the difficulty many older adults experience in managing their weight. You may feel like you're doing everything right, eating carefully, staying active, and watching your portions, yet the scale refuses to move or even creeps upward. This can feel discouraging, but the explanation is often hormonal. Vitamin D helps support the balance of several important hormones, including those involved in metabolism, appetite control, and fat storage. When vitamin D is low, the body can't regulate these processes efficiently, which leads to slower metabolism and increased fat accumulation. That means the same foods or habits that once felt manageable can suddenly contribute to weight gain or stubborn fat that refuses to budge. Low vitamin D can also influence insulin sensitivity, which affects how the body processes sugar. When insulin becomes less effective, the body tends to store more fat, particularly around the belly area. Many older adults mistake this change for age-related slowing of the metabolism, when in reality, vitamin D deficiency may be playing a major role. This shift in metabolism can also lead to increased cravings, especially for comfort foods, because because the body is trying to compensate for low energy and hormonal imbalance. The problem is not just overeating, it's the body struggling to maintain internal stability without a key nutrient. There's also a strong connection between inflammation and vitamin D levels. When vitamin D is low, inflammation tends to rise, and chronic inflammation is known to contribute to both hair thinning and weight gain. Inflammation disrupts the environment around hair follicles, making them less productive and more fragile. At the same time, it interferes with the body's ability to burn fat efficiently, creating another barrier to maintaining a healthy weight. For older adults, inflammation can build up slowly over the years, creating a domino effect that affects appearance, energy, and overall well-being. Another thing people notice is changes in skin texture or dryness, which indirectly ties into the hair and weight issue. When vitamin D levels are low, the skin may become dull, dry, or thin because vitamin D supports healthy skin cell turnover. This can make hair look even more fragile and make weight-related concerns feel more noticeable. All these symptoms together create a picture of the body struggling quiet, but the encouraging part is that once vitamin D levels improve, many people experience positive changes. Hair becomes fuller, metabolism feels more active, energy improves, and the body starts functioning more smooth. These improvements are not sudden miracles, but steady signs that the body is returning to balance with a nutrient it desperately needs. Identifying these signs early and getting your vitamin D levels checked can make an enormous difference in how you feel, because the body gives warning signals long before major problems develop, and most people over 60 simply don't recognize those signals for what they truly are. The symptoms can seem scattered and unrelated at first. Maybe you feel more tired than usual, or your mood is lower, or your muscles feel weaker, or your bones ache in ways they never did before. On their own, these might seem harmless, but together they form a pattern your body is trying to show you. Vitamin D deficiency is incredibly common, especially with aging, because the skin becomes less efficient at producing it from sunlight, and many people naturally spend less time outdoors. Over time, the deficiency deepens and the symptoms become more noticeable. Yet many people assume that these issues are simply part of getting older, which leads to years of discomfort that could have been prevented with a simple test and a small amount of daily supplementation or lifestyle adjustments. This is why awareness is so important. When you know what the symptoms look like, you're able to recognize when something is off instead of brushing it aside. Vitamin D levels affect everything from energy and immunity to bone strength, mood, and metabolism. When these systems start to show strain, your body is communicating its need. Often a blood test is all it takes to confirm whether your levels are low. The process is quick, inexpensive, and extremely accurate. The moment you have that information, you can take action and prevent the long-term consequences that many older adults unknowingly endure for years. These consequences can include increased risk of fractures, chronic fatigue, muscle deterioration, cognitive decline, and weakened immunity. But when you identify deficiency early, you give your body the opportunity to repair, strengthen, and rebalance itself. Once someone over 60 begins replenishing vitamin D, the improvements can be surprisingly noticeable. Muscles become stronger, balance improves, mood stabilizes, energy increases, sleep quality gets better, and the immune system becomes more resilient. Even hair, skin, and weight regulation can begin to shift in a healthier direction. These changes aren't random, they're the body finally receiving the support it has been missing. Vitamin D works like a switch that activates systems that were running on low power for too long. What felt like aging suddenly feels reversible, or at least manageable, because the underlying problem was nutritional rather than inevitable. Understanding these signs also empowers you to take control of your health instead of waiting for things to worsen. Many people assume they need major treatments or medications to feel better, but often the issue begins with something as fundamental as vitamin D. By recognizing the symptoms early and getting your levels checked, you prevent small problems from turning into long-lasting health issues. You also protect your independence, mobility, emotional well-being, and quality of life. The body is always communicating. The challenge is learning to listen. Once you do, you realize how much of your health is still in your hands and how much better you can feel when you give the body the nutrients it needs to thrive. So if you're over 60 and any of these symptoms sounded familiar, don't ignore them or assume they're just part of age. Your body is smarter than you think, and these little signals are its way of asking for support. A simple vitamin D test and a few small changes can make a life-changing difference in your energy, mood, strength, and overall health. Take care of yourself, listen to your body, and give it what it needs to keep you feeling strong. Thanks for watching, stay healthy, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.